In this video, I'm going to touch about a very sensitive conversation in terms of why are so many IIM graduates depressed and not happy. I'm going to talk about this from experience. I have a lot of friends who face some of these issues, some of my seniors, some of the people who've worked with me. A lot of my own batchmates have told me about such incidents from their other IIM friends. Now, before we start and we get into the root causes, do subscribe to the channel, click on the bell icon so that the next time I make a video, you come to know about it. Now, when you think about IIM graduates, you think about that they're doing very well in life, they occupy high positions, they're successful entrepreneurs making a lot of money, and a lot of that is true. But that's not the reason why they're unhappy or they're getting depressed. Let me give you a story about four friends who had passed out from IIM graduates, from IIMs a few years back. And this is a true story because I know a lot of them personally because they were well connected with my friend. And you have to ask yourself if you've heard such a story or not. So four friends who passed out from IIM graduates from IIM very, very recently. So one of them, a lady, and for the face of it, there was nothing wrong. They were leading picture perfect lives. They were traveling twice a year. And they had great Instagram profiles. They were doing well. They were married to similar IIM graduates. They would go shopping every Friday night. They had parties. They would take common vacations. On the face of it, their life was picture perfect. But once you peel that first layer of onion out, a lot was not fine. So for instance, one of the ladies at Friday meeting said, "We only travel business class and we only stay in 5-star hotels when we travel abroad." Now, this statement of hers put so much pressure on the other three women in that group that when they started traveling internationally, they also had to fly business class and they also had to stay at 5-star hotels like JW Marriott. So an international vacation, which is fairly common these days, instead of becoming a 1 lakh to a 3 lakh affair, ended up becoming a 10 lakh or a 15 lakh affair, putting tremendous pressure on the finances of that group. There's another person in that group who recently became a mother. She had 2 children. And what she said to her other friends is, "I'm staying in Bombay in a 2 BHK flat. I have 2 children. I don't want to be a bad mother. I want to be a good mother. So I'm moving to a 4 BHK so that my children have more space." And I really look down upon people who do not give their children enough space. The other women in that group were also mothers of 1 child or 2 children. And as a result, they also had to move from a 2 BHK to a 3 BHK or a 4 BHK because they didn't want to come across as bad mothers. And you know, Bombay is a very expensive city, put tremendous pressure on their finances. Now, the husband of one of the women was physically very conscious. He was very well groomed with his hair, with his nails. He was very fitness conscious, and that put a lot of pressure on the husbands of the other 3 IIM graduates. So they also had to up their grooming quotient. So some of it which was good for them, some of it which was not good for them. So they had to start going for the gym. They started tried to get abs, which is not so bad, but they also had to get hair transplants. They had to wax their chest. They had to go for pedicures and manicures every fortnight, which they didn't like at all. Finally, and probably the most troublesome story in this is the husband of one of the people, and the husband himself, an IIM graduate, lost his job. And because he was so scared to talk about it because of the social repercussions, he didn't tell his wife, because he knew his wife would tell the other 3 friends and they would tell their husbands and words would spread. So he didn't tell his wife he actually lost his job. So every morning he would go to a WeWork chair. He brought a WeWork seat. He would just go and sit there and spend the rest of the day looking for opportunities. Now, some of you may ask me if this is a far-fetched story. It is not. It is actually a true story. In my ecosystem, I have seen this. These 4 are friends of a very good friend of mine. That's how I know this is true. And I'm pretty sure this happens across the board. A lot of you may ask me if this is not just restricted to IIM graduates, but this kind of pressure to keep up with your peers is everywhere. Possibly true. It's with everywhere. But what happens is, I think with IIM graduates, the pressure to lead that picture perfect life is a lot higher. Some of that pressure comes from a very young age because of the institutes they go to, because of the high achievement standard they set for themselves, the pressure their relatives put on them. So this pressure to lead a picture perfect life is much, much higher. on IIM graduates. Now, the moral of this story is very, very simple, and to every person who's listening to this video is when you're making choices, make your choices so that you are happy and you are comfortable. Do not make a choice to satisfy your neighbor, your peer, or your relative. And if you have someone in your peer circle or a friend or a relative who's acting like any of the examples I gave above, it makes sense to cut them off if you want to be happy mentally, if you want to be happy emotionally. With that, we come to the end of this video. I hope you learned a lesson or two. Before we log off, do subscribe to the channel, click on the bell icon. Till next time, take care.